I think of James Bond movies, and the bomb is ticking down.
It's just about to go down.
And he saves it in the nick of time, and you never do.
I never named it save it in the nick of time.
No. If you were James Bond, the whatever little republic would have detonated.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop.
Hey everybody, it's Chris and Alan again, and we're doing the Small Business Safari, and today we're talking about beginning with the end in mind. And that's pretty exciting, right, Alan?
Absolutely. I'm so excited I can hardly stand it.
Oh my gosh. You know what? To make it even more exciting, I'm going to go ahead and read Beth's info before we let Beth start talking and getting into the nitty-gritty stuff, all the stuff that Alan wants to talk about. Beth Miller is a change and obsession with succession planning guru. That's what led Beth to branch out on her own and found Executive Velocity in 2006. Since then, she's enjoyed seeing many of the leaders she's coached have career breakthroughs, receive promotions, and successfully grow and scale their businesses. And that's what we're all about, everybody. Beth began her own career starting at the project management firm M&A Group. With a desire to give back to the community and lend her entrepreneurial experience to others, she became the chair of a Vistage Group and did that for a number of years. Vistage is a prestigious CEO peer advisor group, which we have a lot of experience with, and we're excited.
Super excited.
Thank you, Alan. Beth soon realized that she wanted to get into other aspects and work with business owners and executives, not only help them grow, scale, and thrive, but also work on things such as her book. That's right, Alan.
She has two books, Chris.
She is double cooler than I am. Right, Beth? Wait, hang on. We'll get back to you in a sec. She has written her second book, Replaceable, An Obsession with Succession, the book that I've actually read myself. And it's a doozy.
It doesn't have a lot of pictures, Chris. I'm impressed.
I didn't read it all because I couldn't do it. But Beth, what's even more exciting is that Beth's an explorer, a world traveler who set foot on all 7 continents, has a love of animals. And Beth lives in Atlanta today with her 2 cats, Puri and Mr. Bates, lovingly named after the Downton Abbey characters. With that, we welcome Beth.
You know, every time you try to do this right before we go live, I think of James Bond movies, and the bomb is ticking down.
It's just about to go down.
And he saves it in the nick of time, and you never do.
I never named it save it in the nick of time.
No. If you were James Bond, the whatever little republic would have detonated.
Are you saying I'm not very good with technology, Alan?
He's definitely not under pressure.
All right.
And wait 3 minutes before Beth came on to fix that.
All right, Beth, do we have you on?
Yes.
There you are.
Hello.
I think I've been able to pull this off, which is kind of a hard thing. I don't know if you heard our banter before you got on, but
No, I didn't.
I was just telling Chris that he always waits to just like 2 minutes before we go to suddenly go, oh yeah, I've got to do this and this and this on the computer and get Outlook off, and he's never on time. And I'm like, I always think about the James Bond movies when you got to defuse the bomb and the timer's going down, and it always gets diffused with like 3 seconds to go. And you know, Chris is no James Bond.
Yeah. Cheers and welcome back, Beth, to the Small Business Safari. We are still looking forward to talking about beginning with the end in mind. But before we do that, our biggest question for you is 7 continents? Really? You've
Yes.
been at all 7.
Some of them are pretty easy to get to, but there's a couple.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, the
So what-
Antarctic especially,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how'd you get there?
by boat.
I love
I
it.
need to work on your question.
Really?
A little more open-ended.
All right. All right. So
it-
did you go on
you-
safari?
You generally leave from the tip of Argentina. There are other places. I think you can leave from New Zealand as well. But for those of us in North America, that's how you would get there. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Was the nature of your visit, was it a quest? Were you learning? You just wanted to see?
Well, actually, my mother, she had been twice before, and she wanted to take me. I was like, okay.
Wow.
And I'm not big on small boats, and this was it was an icebreaker thing. I went and researched medication and was able to get something that would be helpful. Fortunately, I never had to use it. We went through the Drake Passage, and in record time, because they called it the Drake Lake, there was like no bad weather at all. So consequently, when we got back, headed towards Argentina, they were basically 2 days ahead of time. So they took the long way around the Horn, and they said they had not seen that part of the world for 3 years because the Drake Passage hadn't allowed them to do that.
Whenever I talk to somebody like Beth,
So it's one and done. I'm never going to do it again because I know I'll never get that kind of weather again.
it just makes me want to have a do-over.
You want
Yeah.
to be cooler in your life?
So what's even more interesting was I did that trip during Snowmageddon. Remember that? Snowmageddon?
Yes.
Yeah, here in Atlanta, we had this.
I was having a barbecue in 50-degree weather down in the Antarctic.
We're stuck on 285 for 12 hours.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. It did. And during that, I had to scramble to get all my guys home. At the time, I had 12 technicians in the field.
Yeah.
And at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we started to realize, oh my gosh, this is going down. I said, all right, get everybody home now.
Mhm.
One of my guys took him till 2 o'clock in the morning to get home. From us saying at 1 o'clock, go home. It just took him that long. And it was a surreal event. Obviously, we're not ready for the snow here.
I had a friend who literally spent the night on 285, and that day he had picked up a ride from his boss, which wasn't necessarily the warmest relationship. And my friend is a chain smoker. So I can only imagine, it's bad enough to be stuck on 285 in a snowstorm for 12 hours, but then it's with your boss and you can't smoke if you smoke.
There you go.
Yeah.
So with that, let's segue into why Beth is here to talk to us.
Yeah,
today.
right.
How to get rid of that chain smoking boss, or you're the chain smoker trying to get away from the boss. So, Beth, you've obviously had an incredible, great career, and now you're out helping people with that obsession with succession, and helping people think about that. Begin with the end in mind. And do you find a lot of people get into business and when they first talk to you, have no idea how to get out?
A lot of them do. Yeah. I mean, I'll ask them, what's your exit strategy? And generally it's like, well, it'll be in 10 years.
Oh, they
Is
must
that
give you
okay?
a look like, are you kidding me? We're talking about that now, right?
Right. Yeah. They don't. And many of them, when they actually get to the time where they want to exit, they're not prepared. And part of it is because they themselves have been the roadblock. They don't know what it looks like on the other side. They have no plan of post exit, and consequently, they choose to delay.
Interesting. So when you say it's always 10 years out, people always answer with 10 years because you think that's that arbitrary, it's too far away to really think about it. So they give you that answer. But you're saying that most of the people are hesitant to think about it because they don't know what they're going to do after this.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of fear.
So when you wrote the book, I mean, usually when somebody writes a book, and she has two, Chris.
Yeah. You're doubly cooler than me.
Yeah.
2 books. I only have 1.
She's probably sold a couple of them too.
Yeah, it probably that would make her like 200 times better than me.
We usually either have this story bubbling up or this idea bubbling up that you have to get out on paper, or you see this huge need. And I'm assuming that this book was birthed out of, oh my God, I mean, I see the thing over and over again.
Yeah, I was a Vistage chair for many years. So for those people that don't know about Vistage, it's a CEO membership organization, mostly for small, privately held companies. And there were a number of people. In fact, in the book, I use two examples that are kind of hidden. But there's Rick and Dan, and Dan's the one who really knew how to do it, and Rick kind of ignored it, and consequently had a bad result in the end.
Can you flesh that out for our listeners? Because I may have mentioned to you that a lot of people are thinking about getting into business, or they're just brand new in business, and this is just so far out.
Yeah.
What is a consequence, or what is the benefit of having this?
Well, I mean, the negative in the case of Rick was he died. And I mean, this is a real story. And he kept delaying developing the people below him. He was very connected to the clients, and consequently, he had a massive heart attack. And 18 months later, that company did not exist.
So there you go, Alan. Great question. Hey, so for the listeners, can you flesh this out? Yeah, he died, and the business went down in 18 months.
Yeah.
So that's pretty dire.
That's pretty definitive.
Then on the flip side, Dan, he started planning in advance. He identified one of his execs as the heir apparent, and he actually got that person involved in Vistage. So it was kind of a leadership development program for that person. And by the time that he sold his business, he was only working in the business 1 day a week. So he had let go of the reins. He was not really involved in any of the decision making. And he got a full cash, 100% cash up front. He did not have to work out an earn out period at all. And then consequently, the people that were left in the organization, they reaped the benefits. They got some money as well, and had a great opportunity in a larger organization.
So that's one of the biggest things. Is I've been running my handyman remodeling business here for 14 years, and if you would ask me yesterday, "You ready to sell?" Yes, right now. Yeah, right now. And I would like an all cash offer right now, 100%, and let me walk out the door. That doesn't happen much. So
it doesn't. It's very unusual.
Yeah.
It was a
how was he able to do it?
It was a strategic buy by a public company. In fact, there were actually two companies that were bidding against each other. Yeah.
So we had a bidding war going on.
Yeah.
So to get that, because again, when you start your business, you're so excited to jump into it. And I remember, I sold my Mercedes. I bought my two vans. My first job was on a Saturday before we even had our shingle out, because I mistakenly had my shingle out. I didn't know it. We had to get a job done.
You started with an overpromise.
I did. And I had to go. But that first day, I wasn't going, okay, I am out of here in 15 years.
Right.
So you're not doing that. So it
No,
has to evolve over time.
Yeah. And what I encourage business owners to do is, as they're growing and bringing people on, is looking at that individual not as what they can provide today, but what's maybe their potential.
That may be the gold nugget of the year.
So
it's a brilliant thought, because most people are thinking of employees as a pawn or a means to an end, or I just have to fill a hole. But, Chris, if you did get a cash offer today, could you just walk away? No, they'd have to keep you for 3 years, because you need to develop your business to the point where it runs well, whether you're there or not, right?
Yeah. So you need to be, some of the best entrepreneurs are ones that really, really can see potential in people that are kind of like outside of the realm of what that individual's done in the past. I have a good friend who's an entrepreneur, has built a large franchise. He's since retired, and he's got somebody running it. But he saw, there was one guy he brought in who had a criminal record, but he saw something in that guy, and that guy, became a manager in the organization. Not a lot of people will take that kind of risk.
So you're saying that back to the gold nugget is that the people will be the big part of your succession planning. And you said some things. I felt like I have taken some chances on people as well, and I would say that I haven't been rewarded. Is that putting it?
I will tell you that it is a gift that there's probably about 10% of the population that can do that. Now, one of the things that I encourage companies to do as part of their hiring process is to do behavioral assessments that will, identify natural behaviors that might not have come out in the interview.
This is your Myers-Briggs background, is that correct?
Well, Myers-Briggs, I am certified in, but I don't use it for hiring purposes because it's not a validated assessment. I use a tool called Business DNA, which is actually based here in Atlanta, and the research comes out of Georgia Tech. But there are a number of assessments.
Business DNA is the tool you would use. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm very familiar with the DISC profile. I actually use that.
Yeah, and DISC is another one that's not validated for hiring. A lot of people know DISC and Myers-Briggs.
I could definitely.
And I went to Business DNA because it was validated for hiring, and I wanted to be able to, for my clients, to be able to do assessments cradle to grave. So being able to bring somebody in, and then when they're getting ready to be developed, you can use that tool and throughout the employment process.
Well, this is so cool that I got her on the podcast, and of course I didn't bring my pen in here to start taking notes. But guess what? I can go back and listen to it again.
Yeah.
So I've got it.
Chris gets really excited when he hears stuff from people like you. And again, good job, Chris, on getting a guest who's smarter than us, more successful than us, more books than us. And look at her image. She's got the fuzzy background, and she's crisp, and she has to look at these god awful problems that you have in the background. Well, this is everything better than us. We should.
And that's why you're listening to this podcast, you got to go out there and we'll publish some graphics and stuff. You'll see that. Yes, she is definitely the rose between two thorns.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
So go. Go. You go first.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about the whole succession planning thing, and I've been in some corporate organizations where they actually have the org chart and then the little cards, and they actually have pre-plotted who's going to do what in the future. And sometimes it makes me cringe a little bit. I love the fact that they're thinking in a forward manner, but sometimes people know about where they are on that succession plan, and it kind of creates that. There's an awkward dynamic that shows up, kind of like the heir apparent coach.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I talk about it in the book, and that is that, you need to, when you identify those high potentials in your organization that you feel like are going to be able to move up in the organization, that you need to be really clear with them that there's no promise that there's going to be that position, right? I mean, what you need to be doing is communicating to them that you want to invest in their future, and that means developing them. And it could be, coaching, training, certifications, job rotation, whatever, but it's not a guarantee.
Do you find that the companies that do a good job of this have better retention?
Yes. Oh yeah. Millennials by far look for growth and opportunities. And if they know that there is a succession plan in place, they're going to be more likely to stick around.
That's interesting. So you brought that up, and I was actually part of where I had a study presented to me because I'm in a Vistage Like group, and we go through articles at times. And they said that number one reason people leave jobs is because of their boss. But down the list was no growth opportunity. Money was below the no growth opportunity or opportunity to expand their skill set and their abilities to work. So,
and yet when you hear people talk about millennials, they're talking about completely self-absorbed, and they're going to use you and bounce to a different company. And I find this very interesting because I think most people from our demographic look at millennials like a caveman looks at fire.
Yeah.
We just don't know what to do with it. It's strange and confusing, and it could be good. I don't know. I mean, any comments on millennials? And Beth, help us.
Yeah. So,
Please.
yeah, millennials have a lot to offer. And, the fact of the matter is they're a bigger portion of the workforce than you and I. And we just need to understand how they're motivated and lead them accordingly. And not every, it's like saying every Scorpio, or Capricorn is the same kind of thing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, right. It's a blanket statement. You can't say
Yeah.
every Gen X is this and every baby boomer is
Exactly.
this. And
Yeah. I mean, I've met Gen Xers that fit the mold that people talk about. And then there are ones that are very old souls.
Yeah. Actually, some of the best employees I have right now are younger millennials who have that old soul. At least that's what we say, because we're in home services, and our guys work with their hands. And our challenge here is we always tell everybody, you're an artist. You're not just a handyman. You're not just a carpenter. You're not just a tile setter. You got to be thinking of yourself as an artist. Old souls grab it, embrace it, and then you're right. They act differently. I just had one of our best guys. He's brand new to my company. He's only been with me for 2 months, right? He goes out and he puts his phone up and shows himself working, right? And puts it on time lapse. And it shows him taking down mirrors, cleaning up the drywall, and then installing wainscoting all around this room and transform this room from a 70s kind of crazy mirror room to a really nice upscale room. And the guy, of course, he gets a great review. He gets a tip. He does all this, and he shows all of our other guys in training how to do that video. And there you go.
Did he edit out when he was having lunch and trying out customers' clothing and things like that?
Right. So I did that. I edited all that.
I mean, that is one of the advantages of the younger generation is they're a lot more technical savvy. They immediately think of something like that. I mean, I could probably figure out how to do it, but it wouldn't be a thought to do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It was he of course he gets up in front of everybody. He's like, "Oh guys, it's simple." So I had to stop him. Like, it's simple for you.
Right.
I said, just like cursive is simple for us.
Right.
I said, so you got to explain it to a bunch of guys who are cavemen, and he did it. And since then, I've got 2 other time lapse videos. One of them from a guy who's in his 50s, another guy who's the early 60s. And they both did it. I was like, there you go, man. So back to the millennials. And he got the chance to go up there and share. And he also sees a growth opportunity in the company. So I'm really excited about that. And so to get back to we talked about the gift of finding the people and then bringing them up within the organization. Is that, obviously it's a continual thing. Yeah. But so what is kind of the cadence? Is it a monthly thing? Is it a quarterly thing?
Generally from a development standpoint, I recommend, you put a development plan together on an annual basis. And then, there's obviously, timelines and goals, et cetera, and that you review them on a quarterly basis.
What's the level of participation with the employee in their development?
Oh, so the employee really owns it.
Because you may have big plans and they may not.
They should be building the plan with you. You need to come to agreement as to what are the goals, what are the gaps that need to be filled, and what are the specific goals around development. It might be that you find a high potential that you feel like should be moving up in the organization, and when you sit down and have a career conversation with them, they might say, well, gee, you know what? I'm really happy where I'm at. There are a lot of subject matter experts out there that they love their craft. And the idea of moving up in the organization is not something they see as an advantage. because they're being taken away from their craft.
I can only imagine, somebody who's had a lifetime of insecurity and paranoia like me, how empowering and exciting it would be if actually somebody in leadership had come to me when I was a pup in the corporate world and said, I see this in you. Let's talk about it and how we can develop it. Suddenly you're not looking over your shoulder. You're just looking forward.
Right.
I think that'd be super exciting.
Yeah. And so it's really important to have that career conversation first before you leap into development plans.
So one of the challenges a lot of our listeners have, small businesses, but I don't have multi-layers of management. I don't have it. So how do you develop without saying, hey, look, you're going to go from point A to point B to point C. And look, we've got 25 levels in our organization. You can go up.
So it's more about job enrichment and adding things to a job, because there isn't upward mobility. It's more job expansion. So it's, taking some things away from an individual that might be rote and routine and adding more complexity to the job.
That's a great point. I love that you said job enrichment. I'm actually stealing that one and using that here in my business. Yeah.
It's not an original.
I'm dying without a pen. I do have something to write with. So job enrichment. And then you actually did that. We just hired a new CSR lady who answers the phones, and she is just kicking it out of the park. I mean, she's a month into it, and she's running circles around. And admittedly, the lady's been with me for 14 years. She said, yeah, she's running circles around me, Chris. She's got a lot going on. So I just had that conversation with her. I'm like, okay, we need to talk about where you want to go and what you want to do. But in the meantime, Can I have you write the script for our new remodeling process? I'm gonna have you do it because you're brand new. And she was like, oh, great. I love that stuff. I'm like,
yeah, it's giving those like special projects that that's a perfect example of job enrichment.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love that phrase too. I'm going to use that. That's not trademarked, is it? Because I get
no, but it's not mine. I mean, it's an industry lingo. So.
Okay, it's okay to steal from somebody if they stole from somebody else, Chris.
Perfect. I love stealing from other people.
Who stole from somebody.
Right. So as you go ahead. All right. Okay, I'm going to go. All right. So you work with some of these smaller companies, and they're doing that. And again, the end goal here has to be bought into by the owner.
Yes.
He's got to say, or she's got to say, it's not 10 years, which is again, a panacea. If I put it out far enough, it really will never happen. It's going to be 2 to 3 years from now, and make it real.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the first thing, getting over the hurdle of what's next. And then what do they do?
Right. Yeah. It's what I do is I help them start imagining what it would be like afterwards, so their mind is thinking about the future versus.
I'm having a tough time thinking about leaving the trusted toolbox, because I just don't know if I would go to Daytona, Vegas, Spain, or Ireland, or Kiowa.
Well, you have it all, because you don't have to leave the trusted toolbox, because you've done all that while you've been at the trusted toolbox.
Just this year alone. Ellen makes fun of me. I've been on a few vacations this year, but
Okay.
So yes, I guess I could imagine myself after I gotten over that hurdle.
Now, and then you should write a book called The Boss Who Vacations Too Much, something along those lines.
I've actually heading to Michigan this weekend.
That doesn't sound like a vacation.
Oh, come on.
This time of year, actually.
Yeah, mother country.
Lovely.
I'm from there. Come on.
I do have a question.
Go.
So how long between the first book and the second book? Because obviously I see a natural progression from, okay, you're talking about succession planning, exit strategy, and it's all about developing people. And your second book seems to be about.
That was the first book was being talent obsessed.
Oh.
Succession planning was the second one. Yeah. There was about 7 years in between them. And I don't think I'm going to be writing a third.
I hear it's
I will tell you that book took a lot longer to write, and it was a product of COVID. My business slowed down a lot because I was working with small businesses, and still do. That for about 90 to 120 days, things really just came to a grinding halt, and I had this idea in my head that I thought, okay, well, I'll start writing it.
Who's your ideal client?
My ideal client is minimum of 30 employees, upwards of 100, 150. Generally, they're companies where, they're growing. They want to develop their rising leaders. So generally, I'm in there working with first-time leaders that have moved, become like a CSR, and now they're supervisor CSR or whatever, and they value their people. They want to retain them, and this is one way of doing it.
So you start with engaging with the CEO. You come together with a plan, and then now you immerse yourself in the company.
Right.
And how long is that process?
Well, there's a couple clients I've been working with for over 5 years now.
Oh wow.
You're
just part of the team at that point.
Right. Yeah. I've got the card, the card key, and I walk the halls, and yeah.
Well, I guess the big question is, do you get the free coffee? So you're working with them. We talked about people. One of the things that has stressed me out a little bit in my business, and I addressed it, was I didn't have an operations manual. I didn't have a process or a system.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very focused on my processes, my systems. Is that a key piece in like setting it up? And so let's talk about process and systems, and I'll get to my big worry.
Yeah. So, with succession planning, there's clearly a process. There's 6 phases that I step the reader through in the book. From a standpoint of investment, a lot of the investment is in the development aspect. When you get to the point where you figure out, okay, where are the key positions in the organization, who's sitting in them now, who has the potential to move into those positions, should the person die or leave or whatever. The idea is to have the right person in the right seat at the right time, doing the right things. So it's at the right time is that development aspect.
Mm-hmm. Are you using the business DNA tool throughout then, or do you switch over to?
I will work with them from a hiring perspective when they're hiring key employees, using the business DNA. We'll use the business DNA when it comes to the development. We'll also use it when we're redeploying. If they decide they've got somebody that they want to move into a different function, different role. Well, let's take a look at their natural strengths first, and figure out what are the things that they have to adapt to, and how much do they have to adapt? Is it gonna stretch them or break them?
Yeah, that's obviously a big thing. I talk about this quite a bit. You got to find the right amount of work to stretch them. But if you give them too much, it starts shutting them down and demotivating, and that's always the harder part to see.
Yeah.
I just got done telling somebody else is that in my career path, I came out and went to work at Accenture now, and I had left where I was a manufacturing cell leader, and I thought I was all that. I had my master's degree.
It seems to be a constant thread. You always think you're all that.
I am. I do. Yeah. Overinflated sense of ego. It's right there in the profile. You'll see it. So I go in there, and my first job literally was taking minutes in a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what? I'm going to be the best freaking minute taker they've ever seen. Yeah, I did. I went after it. I was taking minutes, taking the action items, doing this stuff, and literally within 6 meetings, I was able to replace myself and train the next person and go on to the next thing. You got to keep doing that. But but again, as you're developing people, sometimes people look at some of these tasks and go, "Man, this is beneath me." And so, how do you coach that part up as they're looking at the long end game? Because as an owner, I'm trying to develop all these people so I can get out of here.
Right.
And they're trying to help me get out of here. So, do you actually tell the employees, "We're trying to get you up here so he can get out of here"?
I wouldn't put it in those words. I would put it more in we're trying to develop you, and there might be opportunities, but I wouldn't, again, guarantee that, something's going to be available.
So outside of the people, then we start talking about process like operations manuals and having those systems and processes in place. Is that something you help with as well? Or is that where you say, if you hire the right person, they'll do that for you?
Yeah. I'm not a process person.
Okay. All right. Now I got to talk about the big one. So I'm getting
the bomb.
all right. So I have my own business for a reason.
She's not going to have to tell you how much it is.
No, I'm not ready for that part. I'm ready for this part. So the reason I started my own business is I remember I had to come in and I was a W-2 employee, and so my wife was at the same time. And I came in, got the taxes, gave them to my tax preparer, my CPA at the time, and he said, "Yep, you owe this much." And I'll share the number. It was $30,000. I'm like, I don't have $30,000. What the hell, man? Have you lost your flipping mind? What are you doing? No. And I said, well, he goes, "Well, that's what happens." I said, well, what do rich people do? He goes, "They're doing what you're doing. You're complaining about it." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not rich. I don't have it. I don't know what to do." He goes, "Well, then go start your own business, because I'm not going to say anything here, but on the podcast, you can hide a lot of money in the podcast in your business." So, well, nope, didn't say it out loud, did I?
I don't know. You spend an enormous amount of money.
Where are you going with that, Chris?
Land the plane, Chris.
All right, here we go. So now, perhaps I run a few things through the business, aka the podcast. Did I mention we did the podcast
Well,
in Cabo?
the podcast is part of your business, right? It's marketing.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Right. See, and one of them we did from Spain and Cabo. So you're doing that, but you got to clean up your books, because to show a good set of books to somebody and show them that it's running a business.
Yep.
Do you find that a lot of people are hesitant to start really cleaning up the books, or is that a big requirement?
That's something that I got involved with when I was a Vistage chair, because I was doing not just leadership coaching, which I do now, but I was doing business coaching as well. And yeah, there were clearly business owners that were not did not have financial acumen, and I knew a number of folks that could help them. That wasn't my gig, but I would send them in the right direction. I mean, there were people that didn't understand what a cash flow was. Yeah,
that ran their own business.
Yes. Yeah.
That's probably pretty common.
They had profit and loss, and they had a balance sheet, but they had no cash flow statement.
Wow, cash is king, man. I mean,
cash is king.
I put this in my book too. I had a guy tell me, I said, "Man, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to leave." He goes, "You're not really ever going to be in business until you got to run around, get that one check, get that check in before the close of business on Thursday to make payroll on Friday." And I'll be damned if I didn't have to do that 3 or 4 times. But I did. I had to drive 15 miles outside of there, grab a check from a lady who owed me, got to the bank at 4:25 before it closed at 4:30, got it in the bank, and everybody that next day got paid except me. And then I went, okay,
well, and you can also grow too fast and run out of cash. So then it's a matter of managing your AR and accounts payable. But if most of your expenses are people, well, you got to pay them. So then it's being prepared and getting.
So for those on the podcast, I'm doing that. Well, yeah, kind of. Do you have to pay them? Well, not really. No, I'm kidding. I do. I've never missed payroll in 14 years.
I think everybody needs a Beth in their life, because she just says it so matter of factly, and you feel like you're really stupid because you should have been doing this.
I know. It's right. She's spot on with it.
I have a question. You may hang up, but I'm assuming you're a solopreneur.
Yes. I do not want to build a business. I built one years ago with my ex-husband and checked the box. I'm very happy.
Yeah. So is there anything that a solopreneur can take out of this conversation? And I'm thinking about, I have a really good friend, similar age as me, who is one of the best tennis pros in Southern California. And highly sought after. He's never built a tennis academy. He doesn't have any underlings. And I think, okay, if he ever wants to take a vacation, if he gets sick, or like one of your
Right.
examples, just Crooks. I mean, he's done, and his
Yeah.
family has nothing. I mean, can you talk about that? Is there any application here?
Not much.
Okay.
There isn't. I
She
mean,
didn't hang up. I just
it's
killed
all
the
of, you know,
conversation.
if solo entrepreneurs, I don't have a business. I've got clients, but I don't really have a business.
Yeah, that's actually painted a pretty grim picture for solopreneur. Hopefully,
I mean,
Beth isn't feeling
they,
too bad
you know,
about
they
it.
look, yeah, I mean, people call and they want Beth. They're not looking at executive velocity.
Right. Yeah. So as a solopreneur, I mean, it's either
Yeah.
you or, and that's your business.
Yeah.
I guess, is there an example of a solopreneur that could actually have sold the book of business or something and get some tangible value out of it?
If they had some intellectual property
Yeah, get a
that
core
would,
value into that.
they could sell the intellectual property.
Yeah. Well, I'm not in that business. I'm in the people business.
Yeah.
And the only way I can scale is people. And I need people. And I need people in one of the hardest hiring markets that I've ever seen. And I actually, I haven't found anybody who has said this isn't the hardest hiring market they've ever seen. So in today's market, how are you finding and helping people acquire talent?
I encourage them to get really creative. Some of the ways you can do it is, depending on what kind of industry you're in, is partnering with schools, for instance, and getting really close to, for instance, you're doing trade work. So, what trade schools can you partner with that you get the first dibs on the people coming out? There was one client I worked with that was in the IT world, and he had come out of Valdosta State and became very successful. But he continued to have a relationship with some of the professors there, and so the professors would feed him, the top talent.
Yeah, so I do have a relationship with the local schools. I've actually offered and gone back in, and I come in for a career day at some of them, or just, hey, this is what real world looks like for some of them, just before COVID, and COVID shut it all back down, and I'm trying to gen it back up. But that's a way you can give back as well, because it's fun. One of the things we are on the podcast, we had a lady on, and I kept saying I'm old. She goes, "You're not old, Chris. You're just seasoned." I'm like, "Thank you." So I love it, because I tell young people all the time, I'm like, you know what? Talk to us seasoned people, because we kind of like talking, and we'd love to see young people have that same, what we think is their work ethic, what we call them old souls, and we want to see them succeed and thrive. So giving back. So the school, that's a great idea. Giving back that way, and finding, how else can we find people out?
Being a good employer, employees will then help you find good folks.
Yeah. So so I'm a Gen Xer. I don't fit the mold, and I just got done making a bunch of virtual videos. So we're going to TikTok these, Instagram them, and Facebook them about why it's so cool to work here. And one of the videos I put out there is I showed that not all tools are made for every application, and I cut a cake with a Sawzall.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. That's right. Well, Beth, this has been a great conversation, and I don't want to keep you too long, but I have a couple more questions. But before we do that, what else haven't we told you about that you think people who are thinking about exiting their business ought to know right now?
Right now, I would say don't think 10 years in start doing it now. And especially if you're, growing a business, every person that you hire, think about them not from a standpoint of what they can do for you today, but what can they do for you 2 years from now.
Yeah, that was great. Great advice. I think a lot of people got to think about that. I've got to get better at the knack. I do feel like I've done a pretty good job with the nucleus. I just have to continue to work on the sometimes you have some misses. You take a bet that just doesn't work out. You're like you said, you had a person had a felony on his record, and you took a chance. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You just got to keep that optimism, that entrepreneurial spirit, that problem solving, that stick to itiveness, and make it happen. So that part's been good. So back to your two examples of the guys, the one guy who was wildly successful and was able to exit.
Mhm.
As he did that, did you find that did he go through fits and starts? And what I mean by that is where he was like, you know what, I'm going to let go. And the next thing you know, you come back to him and you're like, dude, you're right back in the business, right, doing the same damn thing that I just.
That's a good question. He didn't, but I've seen that happen a lot. Where somebody and a business owner will actually hire somebody externally to come in that's going to take the business over, and they keep sticking their nose in the business, and that individual that's been hired externally, they just get tired and they leave.
Yeah, that it's hard because you let go, you go away for a little while, aka vacation, hypothetically, and then you come back and you're like, well, wait a minute, that didn't get done, and next thing you know, you're jumping right back in doing everything again.
Mhm.
Bring up another question. So back in my corporate days, I was a regional vice president with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And one of the things that we were proud of was our culture. We never hired from the outside for leadership positions. It was always developed.
I highly recommend that.
And I was curious what you thought
Yeah.
about that, because it just seems like you can get some amazing people by hiring externally, but they just don't understand the culture.
Yeah. And if you do, if you hire correctly and do succession planning correctly, you can most of the time be able to do that. There are times when a company's strategy shifts and all of a sudden they have a executive position that never really existed, and they don't have anybody internally to put in that place. So they have to go out externally.
All right, if you're kind of done, I've got to ask my 3 questions.
I was going to ask her about a pickleball injury, but go ahead.
No, we can't do that. You're bringing up old wounds. Bringing up old wounds. So, all right, before we do that, though, we do have to say, I think we brought this up on the podcast before, but you're getting into golf, which we're both kind of into it, like golf. One of us plays a lot better than the other one. And this guy right now, that's talking is really bad right now. But so you're picking it up. Why do you like golf? And you never played before. You're picking it up now. Why do you like it now?
Couple things. One, I can do it on my own. I don't need to, find a partner and all that. And because I'm highly independent, and that also the pickleball thing, I realized that when you're learning pickleball, you have to have a partner. Until you get to a certain level, then you can play in these leagues. You can play at singles. And years ago, I played tennis, and I always played singles. I never played doubles. I want to be able to count on me.
So that's the entrepreneurial spirit. You got to bet on me. I put that in my book too. You like betting on me. So,
yeah, exactly. So, and just getting outdoors, and it's a humbling sport.
You know what? Well, yes, it's very humbling and frustrating.
And I don't know if you've heard though. I started in March, but I don't know if you heard. But I got a hole in one.
Are you kidding me?
I checked that, big boy. I was waiting. Actually, she brought it up. I've had so she started in March. I started playing when I was 7.
Yeah.
I have 0.
Yeah.
And you have
I've been playing for decades. I have 0.
Yeah. I literally have been playing since I was 7.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Did you have your own hole?
Did you see it go in?
What?
Did other people
Did you see it go in?
Yes, thankfully I was at a par 3, and I picked up a father and son that were playing. So the 3 of us were playing, and I took my 7 hybrid, hit it, and I watched, and I looked at the guy. I said, "I think that rolled in." He said, "I think it did too."
You had a witness, and you had to buy drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you go back? All right. So that's the etiquette.
I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I know you're going to ask me, did I buy a round of drinks? I didn't, because I had no idea. I was too new. I had no idea.
I'll tell you, we have crushed my friends who've gotten holes in one, like on some golf trips where there's 12 or 16 guys.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you go to the bar, and it's like, I want the biggest, most expensive Long Island iced tea with pineapple and whatever else you can put in it. Yeah, oh yeah.
Give me the best call. I went on a scouting trip, quote unquote, to make sure that we had the right outing for our Accenture outing back in the corporate days. And I had to go out there and play. And we went out there, it was just two of us. And they said, hey, we're going to pair you up with this other guy. I'm like, great. And the guy came out and says, yeah, he says, man, I'm supposed to be at work. My wife thinks I'm at work because I'm playing golf. I'm like, all right, cool. So we're playing. And sure as hell, he hits a hole in one. And I go nuts. I'm like, oh my God, dude, you just nailed it. Oh my God, this is crazy. I said, we got to take pictures, we got to do all this stuff. He goes, no, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to be at work. My wife thinks I'm at work. He's like, he's so conflicted. He goes, I don't know who I can tell. I said, this is all before internet, social media, all this stuff was really going up. I'm like, you got to tell everybody. He goes, but I can't. I said, all right. And so we came up for the next 6 holes. We came up with a strategy. All right, so you're going to play this Saturday, and you're going to tell her that you had the hole in one on Saturday, and you'll tell everybody on Saturday night after you're done that you did it. So there you go. Now you have strategy. All right. So now, not only does she have 2 books, and now she has a hole in one. How are we doing now, Alan?
I'm just really feeling a lot less.
As you listen to this podcast, at least we're bringing really cool people on who are way better than us. Come on, man. You got to keep listening. This stuff is awesome. All right, Beth, I've got to ask 3 questions I always ask everybody because I really enjoy these conversations and questions, and I really enjoyed talking about this topic. So, number 1, what is the favorite feature of your house?
Favorite feature of my house? I think it's probably my stove.
And what stove do you have and why?
I have a Viking.
Nice.
Cooktop.
Gas.
Yeah, of course.
Losers.
I don't even know.
No, nobody cooks on electric anymore.
Nobody cooks on electric.
No.
Not well.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. So Viking stove, love it. That's got good space in there, really good control on the temperature.
That's right.
As you can't tell, we're both we like to cook. Well, you can't tell because we're on Zoom. I like to eat.
She's even better than us in that way too.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So when you're out and you're out in the public, you're doing things. What is a customer service pet peeve of yours? One thing, because we're big customer service freaks here, and we talk about it all the time. That's my handle on Instagram, customerservice.freak. What's a big pet peeve for you?
Not meeting expectations.
So give me an example.
So recently I came back from a cruise and started in Iceland, and I was with my mother, who's 89, and we went down to the hotel dining room, and they were clearly understaffed. Okay,
Right.
There's a lot of right. But the problem was that we ordered, then another table ordered, and then a third table ordered. And the second table got served. We're still sitting there. So I go up to the waiter and I say, listen, what's going on? They've been fed and they're halfway through their meal. And we're still waiting. Oh, let me check. And he's like, oh, it's on its way out. Well, 15 minutes later, still nothing. So I'm going berserk. I've got an 89-year-old mother who's about ready to pass out. She's so tired. And so I had to raise the level of frustration.
Escalate.
It took us 2 hours to get our meal.
Oh boy.
And
Well,
it was a salad, and
but-
it was a salad and a burger. I mean, we're not talking.
I love that what you said, because I was like, dude, so we've said this before in the podcast. Number 1, if you're thinking about starting your own business, you want to go in the restaurant business, don't.
Yeah.
Right? I love cooking. Don't ruin it.
Yeah.
Don't ruin it for yourself. Don't get in the restaurant business. It's so hard because of what you just talked about. I remember going up to a guy and go, dude, I could have chopped the lettuce by now. I mean, all we were getting was salad.
And that's what I said. I said, if I knew it was going to take this long, we would have gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
So your 89-year-old mother got on a plane to Iceland and then took a cruise. God love her. That is amazing.
She's pretty amazing.
She is. She took you to Antarctica.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was about 10 years ago, but still, yeah.
Oh, that's unbelievable. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, right now I think right now they say
Get her mom on the podcast.
I think we should. I think I think right now in Vegas they're saying odds of me making 89 is like 0.00.
Good.
Yeah. Cheers to that. I'll drink another one. All right. Last question is give us a DIY home makeover nightmare story.
Oh gosh, where do I start?
Exactly. See, it's a
She
great
made me
question.
snort.
Well, I think the most recent one is redoing. It was we thought it was a small project. Putting some glass doors on a bookshelf, and this started in October of last year. And our designer contractor, she ended up having to pull the project from one contractor and put it onto another project contractor who finally got it done. But there was, backlog because of the UV glass and yada, 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 yada.
Supply chain, COVID.
So, right. Yeah. So it
I have all the
actually,
excuses. Don't worry.
it's actually supposedly next week it'll be finished.
Holy
It's
cow.
still not done. It's still a nightmare.
And we're
It's,
putting, how
it's
many doors are we
almost
putting up?
done. They're installed, but there needs to be some adjustments.
So let me caveat that. So if you want to start your own handyman remodeling business, don't, because it's hard. I mean, I actually posted in a handyman Facebook group today. I said, I've got 20 iPads and our device management system, the mobile device management system is just a piece of crap for us, not working at all. And the guy writes back, how are you able to scale to 20? And I wrote back, it's not easy, not fun, and I would not recommend it. No, I'm kidding. So I love those stories. You're right. Sometimes people think things are really small. And it goes back to the other thing is setting the expectation.
Right.
And they didn't set the expectation
Yep.
because there truly are supply chain things that are just absolutely crazy.
Yes.
We're coming out of it a little bit now, but 2 months ago, I had to tell somebody that we wouldn't get their door in for 15 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And so they're starting to do that math in their head. I'm like, yes, I know, 15 divided by 4. Yeah, it's 5 months. I mean, that's how crazy it's going to be because it's
Yeah.
really not going to be 4 months. It's going to be 5 months.
Yeah.
And it just, there's things that are just out of our control. There's nothing I can do about it, but I'm taking the brunt of it in front of the customer, but you got to set that expectation.
Right.
And that's what I train my guys on all the time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Beth, before we let you go, we'd like to give you a chance to plug yourself, your 2 books. How can people get a hold of you and find out how to get out of their business? Because as we just talked about, it'd be a good business to get out of. That's the handyman restaurant business.
The easiest way is on LinkedIn. You can find me at Beth Arm Connect Miller. And then on my website is executive-velocity.com. Those are the 2 places to be able to contact me. And my book is on Amazon. So.
And the book, the one I read at least, is Replaceable, an Obsession with Succession.
Yes.
Everybody, again, we bring some great people, and we've bought somebody who clearly.
We way out on our coverage.
I was just about to say, we outkicked the coverage in a big way. And Beth, we want to thank you so much for coming on. You shared a lot of great nuggets for our small business safari. And we want to say thank you. And to everybody else out there, just keep grinding up that mountaintop. Let's get you to that hill that you want to get to, because success is just over the edge.
Beth, it's been a pleasure.
See ya.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Small Business Safari. Remember to keep that positive attitude, which will reflect in a higher altitude as you're out there making it happen in the wild world of small business ownership. Until next time, go make it a great day, Adventure Team.